Yeah, Barbara, what do you make of this response, this statement issued by the Chief Justice, essentially pushing back on these calls for the impeachment of the judge in this case?
Well, truly extraordinary. We do not see statements like this issued by justices of the Supreme Court, but I'm really heartened to see Chief Justice John Roberts take this up. You know, he is a conservative. This is his court. People sometimes think of this court as being supportive of President Trump. So it is very reassuring to me to see Chief Justice Roberts take this stand in favor of the judiciary, because, of course, our government is one of three co-equal branches. And while voters may have voted for Donald Trump because they wanted to see aggressive enforcement of the immigration laws, they did not vote for him to do it lawlessly, nor could they, because our Constitution says it is the province of the judiciary to review the execution of the law. So imagine what we have here. Invocation of the Alien Enemy Act, which is supposed to apply only during wartime or invasion. Very unclear and that we're in any sort of invasion that would meet the legal definition. So that's the first issue. The second is, who are these people and do they meet the definition? Are they non-citizens? Are they members of this gang? It could very well be that they've scooped up people who don't even belong under this order. That's the importance of judicial review. Ultimately, maybe they can be deported under this, but only if a judge is able to make a ruling in favor of the government after this legal challenge was filed.
So, Susan, Barbara touched on how the politics aren't supposed to matter here when it comes to the legality. But President Trump is posting today that he's just doing what the voters wanted him to do. His hardline immigration tactics are what helped get him reelected. Recent polling showing voters approve of his handling of the issue so far. Does that give the president political cover in a way to test the limits of checks and balances?
Well, the White House certainly thinks it does. This is a fight the White House is happy to have. President Trump's approval rating on handling immigration higher than his approval rating on any other major topic, significantly higher than on the economy, where his approval rating has sagged. He has sort of unsympathetic victims here, people who the administration says are members of a Venezuelan gang. So the White House thinks that this is an argument they will win in the court of public opinion, even if they lose it in actual judicial courts, Anna.
Barb, in the past, ICE has said simply having a certain tattoo is proof enough to tie someone to a gang. But even our defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, says tattoos don't always indicate what people might think. He insists a tattoo that he has is not a white nationalist symbol. So who has the burden of proof? And does it matter if a potential asylum seeker isn't given a chance to explain to a judge?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe a tattoo is some evidence, maybe it's not. But what has to happen is due process, and that is people in this country, if you are here within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States, you are entitled to constitutional protections. And one of those is the ability to be protected from the removal of life, liberty, or property with due process of law. And so that means if you are being denied liberty, the ability to stay in this country, it can only be done when there is due process of law. And that requires the government to show that these people, that number one, the conditions in the Alien Enemy Act are met, that we are at war or under invasion, and that seems very flimsy to me to begin with. And then second, that these individuals meet the conditions set forth in the executive order, that they are non-citizens and that they are members of this gang. A tattoo, maybe under other conditions, maybe with other factors present, maybe that's enough. But a judge is the one who is going to review the administrative decisions here because they are entitled constitutionally, no matter what you think of them. Child pornographers, child rapists, they're all entitled to due process of law. It is not about who they are. It is about the fact that we are a system of laws and not of men.
And so we're hearing constitutional crisis be a term that is starting to bubble up again. If constitutional crisis was thrown around in any other presidency, Susan, it would raise major red flags, but it sure doesn't seem like it's triggering a 5-alarm fire kind of response right now. Why not?
Well, taking popular actions, maybe that stands the president in good stead. Also, it may take some time for Americans to make a decision about whether he can go too far for them. Even Americans who feel strongly that our immigration system is broken, that there needs to be action taken against people who are here without without papers, without documentation. They can feel it's possible they'll feel uncomfortable or that it's wrong to do these things in ways that avoid the judicial system, defy the judicial system. It seems to me we're not quite in a constitutional crisis yet, but that we are heading toward one that will be determined when it comes down to whether the administration is willing to openly defy the legitimate court orders when this judicial process has completed. And that may be a step too far, even for Americans otherwise inclined to support President Trump on this issue.
Barb, I want to come back to how the president and his allies are really making this about the judge. They're trying to make it personal, calling for Judge Boasberg to be impeached. Some of the allies of President Trump are calling him a low-level, inexperienced judge with no jurisdiction to issue a nationwide injunction. I know you've used this judge as a lecturer for your law classes. How would you describe his career and his credibility on the bench? And are you concerned about his and other judges' safety?
Absolutely. I'm concerned about the judge's safety. Yeah, Judge Boasberg has been a judge for more than 20 years. He's been a federal judge for more than a decade, and he was the presiding judge of the FISA court. That's the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act court. So he is very experienced in dealing with classified information. That is a secret court appointed by the Chief Justice, John Roberts, to handle classified material for surveillance involving foreign intelligence, international terrorism, foreign espionage, and those kinds of things. So he is very familiar with handling national security and classified information. He is a sober, thinking, sharp, clear-eyed, careful judge. And so the idea that he is coming under fire is, to me, a disgrace. It is also a disgrace, I think, that if you don't like a judge's opinions, that you call for their impeachment or that judges be subjected to harassment or death threats.